Hello everyone and welcome to my new video on the future of solar energy abundance and why I think there's so many good investments right now in solar going on. And again, none of this is investment advice, but let me walk you through my thesis about solar and solar energy specifically, which is, one area that I've spent significant amount of time studying. I don't know as much about wind, for example. But when it comes to solar, what I want to say is forgive me for being a realist about what's going to happen with solar, but I really think this is going to happen. And I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Who thinks that solar is going to be a huge source of energy. People got really excited about solar 15 years ago, 2008, 2007. They were too early. But now's the time. Now solar really can take off. And for example, Tony Seba, I admire Tony Seba. I recommend watching everything he does. This guy is amazing. Anyways, he's a noted American futurist. And here are some of his quotes. Unsubsidized solar today is the cheapest source of energy in history. And we'll see why when I get into the numbers. Another one of his quotes, total costs of solar are lower than just the operating costs of coal, nuclear, oil, and gas generation. What that means is that even if you were to get your oil and gas for free, just operating those plants with the people and the maintenance that you need just to operate those plants is more expensive than just the cost of solar. Because solar costs you nothing to operate. Solar doesn't take hundreds of thousands of jobs from utilities to maintain the grid and to maintain the power plant. No, solar is just you put it on the roof. There's no mechanical part. You power wash it maybe every other year, and that's it. That's it. There's no mechanical thing. And panels that were installed 30, 40 years ago are still generating electricity. Like they lose a little bit of power, but not that much. So that's from Tony Seba. But Tony Seba is not the only one. I listened to the Lex Friedman podcast with Chamath Palihapitiya, and I was fascinated by Chamath's take on solar energy. Like I already knew that he was mining Bitcoin with solar somewhere in New Mexico, and he mentioned that on one of his podcasts. But I already knew that, but I didn't realize that he was so informed on solar. And this guy's just smart. But this is what he says: solar on your roof with a battery wall in your garage is the cheapest, most efficient it's ever been, and a zero cost proposition from day one. Yes, absolutely. I've been saying that ever since I've started the channel, and I guess my John Stossel video got a lot of criticism because I was too bullish on solar. But I'm sorry, that's still the case. That is still what I see. Another thing, utilities must invest over $2 trillion over the next 10 years just to update the power lines. And by the way, that is less than the total cost that Tony Seba estimates is going to cost to generate solar for the whole United States. So these costs, these $2 trillion in investments that utilities are going to have to do are going to increase our utility bills. And so why do I think solar is the future? Why do I think solar energy, photovoltaic energy, really affords us a future of energy abundance? And again, sorry to be an optimist because right now everything's down and tech is down and productivity and innovation is down. But again, sorry to be an optimist. But this is the cost of solar for the past, 40 years, right? It dropped by 400x. 400x. Okay, that is huge. That is huge. Here's another one. This is why most people get solar wrong. This is our estimate. So every year, for example, in 2010 here, we had estimates. We thought the cost curves would go down like this. And then we thought the cost curves would go down like this. Cost curve was going like this. Cost curve was going like this. We've been wrong as to our estimates of how fast solar costs are going to be dropping. Solar costs have been dropping much faster than anticipated by all of the experts and all of the industry agencies, and they keep falling faster. And why do costs fall faster? Because they use semiconductors, right? They use the same tools that we use to make our chips. We're using to make solar. So the cost curve decline that we've experienced in semis, we are learning from semis and we're making solars cheaper and cheaper. And this is perhaps the most stunning chart right here, which are the efficiency Look at the efficiency that you can achieve in labs. We're reaching 50% efficiency in the lab. So those solar panels not only are getting cheaper, but we are using less and less and less space on our roofs as we go forward. I mean, we obviously can't go more than 100%, but could we get to 70%, say, in like 10 years? Could we? I mean, I think we could. That would be absolutely insane, the efficiency that we get on these solar cells. So solar is keeping on its decline of costs. But you may say, oh, the energy future, you can't just have solar, you need to have batteries as well. Well, let's look at batteries, right? Batteries are also getting cheaper and cheaper. This is the cost of lithium-ion batteries since 1992, and you can see it's an exponential decline in the cost. I mean, they've been falling faster and faster, and they keep falling. So it's really really impressive. Don't forget, this is a log axis, right? Same for battery prices. Look at the battery prices. In 11 years, battery prices have dropped 89%. Will they drop another 89%? I believe so. If we've learned anything about Wright's law and Moore's law, is that these things tend to stick. These gains tend to manifest in the future. And so industry incumbents are thinking linearly. They're not thinking exponentially. They're not thinking about these S curves and these adoption curves that are happening right now, both at the convergence of battery and photovoltaic. Also, don't forget, and this is an important fact, systems will be oversized. Like, you won't need that much of a battery if you have an oversized system. If you oversize a solar system for the coldest month of the year or for the hottest month of the year, you're see, if you oversize a system like that, then all you're creating is a system that can sustain you in the coldest and hottest month. But then the rest of the year, you have abundant energy that you can use to power something else, that you can use to create other industries, right? Also, don't forget about that. Modern panels work in cold and rainy weather. They're much better than they used to be. Like, if someone assesses solar panels with 5-year-old data, it's too late. Tony Seba demonstrates that even in Alaska, solar panels produce enough energy for a single-family home, for an average single-family home. Oversized systems only require batteries for the night, at night. That's it. That is it. So, and again, this is something I've observed over the past year, and I've been following solar for a while. The costs are declining like crazy. So the average home in America needs 6,600 watts of solar to cover 100% of the theoretical need of the average home in America, and that's a 2,000 plus square foot, and that's a four person house, right? Two adults, two children. Needs about 6,600 watts. So what does that cost if you want to do that today? Well, I went ahead and did the math with premium products. My prior video, I was using cheap Chinese inverters. No. I'm using premium products here. How much does it cost with premium products? Well, solar panels are a commodity. So since solar panels are a commodity, it really doesn't matter. It's going to be a Chinese panel that you get, $154 a piece, right? So that's $3,250 worth of solar panels for the average American house. Enphase and Power, that's a system controller that you need for your microinverters, and I'm using Enphase because I'm an investor in Enphase, and I think Enphase is one of the companies that will succeed in this space. So $1,700, almost $1,800 for your Enphase and Power system. Then your Enphase IQ microinverters, you need 21 of these at $135 each. That's $2,800, and then your battery. Your battery itself, and again, that's a premium battery. You can get much cheaper battery. Like if you get a LifePo 4 battery, you can get some of those for perhaps less than $1,000 sometimes. So you can get much cheaper batteries. You don't have to get the premium, but the premium is $2,800. And so if I add it up, and I have omitted a few cables, a few breakers, and a communication box, just in full disclosure. But if I add this up, the main components, just the cost of these components is $10,600 to power your whole house forever. Like, this is insane. To power your whole house, to eliminate your electric bill, $10,600. And that's with Enphase products, which are more expensive. No brand name kits right now. And there's plenty of websites online that sell these no name kits. You have plenty of YouTube channels with, for some of them, more than 1 million followers that explain people how to do it. These kits, you can get off grid. You can get your whole home off grid for less than $8,000 if you're willing to go with the more lower end items. And again, I'm not even including the 30% federal tax credit in that $10,000. Not even including that. So if you include it, that's even cheaper. And they voted the tax credit again until 2030, which is insane to me because they didn't need to do that because adoption was coming anyways. Because this is so good. Like, this is really, really good. Let me walk you through the math again, right? So my estimate is $10,000, 600 of materials, and the average installation for a solar panel setup is $6,000. Knowing that, and I want to point that out, like if someone is interested in doing solar, it's very important that you get at least 3 quotes because you still have people who like are crazy and kind of scam people and ask you still have installers that are not ethical, so you need to make sure that you get at least 3 quotes, but the average is about $6,000 for an install. So that's 16,600 and 70 with the battery, which is my cost estimate if you get a professional installer. And I'm not too far off from what main websites say. So this is Consumer Affairs. They've done a survey of what it costs to install a whole system. This time it's a system that has net metering. So that means that it doesn't use a battery. So just keep in mind when you compare. But net metering is kind of the same as having a battery. It's just like you're just going to be getting your electricity back from the grid at night, and you're going to have reverse metering for your excess during the day. So it's kind of comparable and similar. And that's $15,000 in California, $14,000 in Florida, and $16,700 in Illinois. So really, I'm not that far off with my $16,600 dollar estimate, just using prices of a random customer buying retail. So installers get better prices. They get a better pricing than what I can find online. So again, the cost with the federal credit is $11,600. So let's go with that. Let's go with $11,600. The average system, 6.6 kilowatt system, generates about 900 kilowatt hours per month for the average location in America. At 15 cents a kilowatt hour, which is now the average, which is what I pay here in Texas, which is very close to the U.S. average. That's $135 a month of savings, yearly savings of $1,600. So with yearly savings of $1,600, I make a 14% return a year in Texas just for setting up solar panels. So you get a payoff in 7 years. If you finance it, well-qualified financing, if you finance it, it's accretive from day one. If you finance it from day one, you save money. And that's in Texas, where electric is cheap. But look at other places. California. I did the same calculation, average cost in California. That's a 24% return per year for setting up solar in California. California, the most populous state in America. New York, second most populous state, 20% return per year. Texas, 14%. So regardless of where you live in America, this is going to be accretive from day one. Like if you finance it from day one, you are making money from installing solar, which is why I think we are just at the beginning of that S-curve. I think there is going to be a wave of adoption for solar. As this type of math gets out, people are just going to go crazy. And we see this with a lot of shortages. Like there's already shortages happening for a lot of components in the solar, in solar systems. Another very important fact. The presented system is a 6 kilowatt system, which only uses 330 square foot of roof space. 330 square foot. Did you know that takes so little space on the roof? It's insane. People will oversize, and these setups, I know Enphase as well as the Tesla Powerwall, they are set up for you to oversize. You get another car, another electric car. Well, what do? Just add a few panels on the roof. So you can charge that car for free. People will oversize your system. You can have 10x the size on a 3,000 square foot home, which is the average square footage of a house. You're not limited to just 300 square foot of solar panels. So people will oversize. And if you oversize, you can not only charge your electric car, but you can also heat your home thanks to your oversized electric system, and you can cool your home. You can use your AC. You can really power a very energy hungry home with an oversized system. And you can sell the excess energy of the grid to the grid, which is why I'm very concerned for utilities. Um, and again, let's remember the charts that I showed earlier, which is what? According to the Solar Energy Industries Association, residential solar panel systems have dropped in price by an annual average of more than 60% over the past decade. 60%. And that annual average drop in cost, by the way, is has been really similar to some of the returns we've seen in Tesla and Enphase stock. So that's also important to think about. And then, so the costs are dropping, and the cost of upgrading your system and adding more solar to the system is dropping every year. Yet, you would think electric costs are dropping. Grid electricity doesn't drop though. Its costs have risen on average 4.3% each year. And if you look, there's only been about 2 years. I mean, this one doesn't count. There's only 2 years where really it has dropped, and every time it was like what, 2% drop. We've had insane, consistent increases in electric prices from the grid. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is I think there's going to be a squeeze. That squeeze is going to trigger an energy revolution. People are going to see solar costs decrease every year. And so even if installers keep simply upgrading the power, and they want to keep that $10,000 to $15,000 price tag to set up solar panels, what they'll do is they'll just put more panels and sell more energy. So we have this decrease on one hand, and we have this increase of 4.3% average over the past 20 years in electric bills in America. We have this increase on the other hand. So there is like a squeeze happening from both sides, which is pushing the adoption of solar. And actually, if you look at what's happening with energy prices, a lot of people, I think, are seeing energy independence for their families, for their homes, as a really good thing, because the EIA raises retail electricity prices forecast for this year. Millions of lower income families face unaffordable energy prices, especially if you're on Social Security. Guess what? If you're on Social Security and you have a solar roof, your electricity is your electricity. You're not dependent on financing improvements to the grid. You're not dependent on maintaining old facilities that make electricity, right? You're not dependent on maintaining these old gas plants or these old coal plants. You're not maintaining those if you are moving away from retail, right? Moving away from retail electricity and producing your own. Here's another one. It's like, yeah, the data over the past 20 years shows it was a 4% increase on average, but actually recently we've had closer to a 15% increase. Now I expect this to go down, of course, because we've had kind of an energy crisis. But still, is it going to be higher than 4% going forward? Is it going to be like 6 or 7% inflation in electricity prices? There is a squeeze going on, which is going to lead to adoption of solar. I really believe it. And I speak this where I'm located in Texas. I see solar panels getting installed like just about every overstreet. Like it depends where you're located, of course. But here in Texas, I see them popping everywhere. And I'm in Texas. Like this is not, you wouldn't think this is the state where people are crazy about solar. But people do the math. People do the math. And when you do the math, there is just no way around it when you do the math, right? It doesn't matter whether you think they look good or not. How long, this is my question, how long will homeowners ignore an investment that can yield hundreds of thousands of dollars in return over the lifetime? It doesn't matter how much you hate the look, and you have people say, oh, they're magic mirrors, oh, they're ugly. It doesn't matter how much you hate the look if you can save as much as you would make from, say, operating a rental property on the side. Like the savings are becoming really insane. You over the lifetime of your equipment, you're very likely going to save more than $100,000. And as efficiency increases, it will be probably more than $100,000 that people will save from a small $15,000 to $20,000 solar array on your roof, and you generate $100,000 to $200,000 of savings over the lifetime of that investment. That is insane. That is how revolutions get started. It's very similar to what happened in the chip sector and how compute increased really, really fast. And companies got disrupted. And I think this is going to be no different here. Not the only one thing that Tony Seba, Chamath Palihapitiya, Elon Musk, people in the field, the CEO of Enphase, they all see that happening. We have a future of solar energy abundance. My case here, I think investors, not investment advice, but I think they're taking insane risk for a 4.1% yield. You're taking huge risk because initially in the traditional system that really is not used to studying disruption or understanding disruption, people are taught to think that utilities are super safe. Like utilities is a super safe investment. I'm going to buy Southern Energy or Duke or Continental Edison. That's a super safe investment. That's the assumption. It is so much of an assumption that they had state monopolies, right? So if you have a state monopoly guaranteeing you customers, debt is okay. And they've taken so much debt. This is sovereign company, right? So sovereign company operates in warmer climate, more sun type state, right? Sunnier state. And look at that balance sheet of sovereign company. Again, no offense for SO, like it's just that I'm very concerned. It's like you get a 4% yield, but you have a company whose balance sheet is 75% debt. Like, look at the maturity schedule. Like, good luck refinancing that. Good luck rolling over that debt. Like, do you think you're going to be able to roll over at a good interest rate $4 billion of debt in 2026 or in 2032? When it becomes clearer and clearer, when Tesla enters this market, when Enphase really keeps growing at an unprecedented pace, and they take debt until beyond 2052. I mean, the debt is crazy. The debt is crazy for an industry that people have assumed could not be disrupted. And that is my thesis, that this industry can be disrupted because at some point, it doesn't matter how much you hate solar, at some point, people will adopt this because the costs are still dropping 60% and the costs are still rising. So I'm very concerned about industries that people just assume they'll always been around, and people just assume they are monopolies and will always be around, and it's okay to go into crazy amount of debt. I would be very careful about a 4% yield. Many utilities, and this is another important point, and I've read 5 investor presentations before doing this video, so I think I kind of have a overview understanding of this business. Many utilities, the main business is asking the state regulator for a rate increase. You gotta lobby to the state regulator so you can increase your rates, and in exchange of the regulator granting you a rate increase, you must do major investments to maintain the grid and to maintain your power plants, etc., etc., etc. So the business model is really to try to increase your rates, right? That's the business model. You want to increase your rates by a consistent, 6-7% a year. You make investment with long-term debt, and then you increase your dividend. Like, that's the business model. I don't think customers, again, keeping in mind that squeeze between solar and your electric rate, I don't think consumers are going to like that. I don't think they are going to take kindly to the increase, the very high increases in their electric rate. In fact, my electric rate here went up 40%, and I do not appreciate it. I do not appreciate it. Okay? None of them discussed home solar as a threat. None. They don't discuss it. In fact, I have found a few of them are selling their renewable portfolio. It's as if we went back 10 years because now oil is up like crazy. It's as if we went back 10 years. I don't think we're going back 10 years in time. I really don't. These cost curves are not looking at the macro. They are declining regardless of the macro environment. They keep declining. The cost is getting cheaper and cheaper. Again, this is a revolution waiting to happen. Let me move on. I think decentralized energy will win. I think the energy that will win will be that of every home generating their own electricity. And why is that? Well, because the cost to maintain the grid is just too high. It's just too high. As Chamath Palihapitiya said, $2 trillion over the next 10 years to maintain the grid. The cost is just insane to maintain the grid. Furthermore, the grid is not reliable. I mean, it's kind of like not having fridge at home and still relying on ice boxes and ice truck to conserve food, like at the turn of the 19th century. It's kind of the same thing. It's like we have this grid, but this grid is really, really not reliable. It's so much not reliable that we have entire industries that exist to address the shortcomings of the grid. Generac is a big one, at-home generators. It's like that's to tell you how much the grid is not reliable, right? Here's another issue with a centralized grid. A localized tornado can stop the grid for tens of thousands of people. So you can have a tornado somewhere in your line, and boom, your line is down, and then you have an entire city that's paralyzed. Decentralization fixes that, right? And lastly, we are moving towards a customer-centric world. We are moving towards a world where customers expect a positive win-win relationship with whoever they're transacting with. I really believe this is the world we're headed towards. Amazon has educated the US consumer to a win-win relationship. The customer is always right. Like this is the new standard of operation of business. And utilities do not work like this. Like utilities, electricity is a commodity. I know few people who are like, oh, I love my electricity provider. Just like I know few people who are like, oh, I love, my local gas station brand. It's really, really tough to create a customer-centric relationship or a win-win relationship with a brand that is a commodity. And that is not the case of decentralized energy. Like when you have solar panels, if you're an Enphase person, you're going to be very happy with Enphase. You're going to have very high net promoter score for Enphase, and you're going to talk about Enphase. If you're a Tesla person and you have a Tesla Powerwall, you're going to tell everybody about your Tesla Powerwall and how it saved you in an outage, etc., etc. There is none of that with a traditional utility sector, because your only relationship with that company is a monthly bill that increases yearly. So you're not creating a strong customer relationship. So I think this is why the decentralized energy will win, right? What can you do with extra energy? Because part of this thesis is that solar is getting so cheap that people are going to oversize their systems. And if people oversize their systems, what can you do with all of this extra energy? Is it a problem to have so much extra energy? And the answer to that is obviously not. So this is some of the emerging trends. One of them is the virtual grid or the virtual power plant. So many people, I believe, are going to choose to oversize their system, knowing full well that they can resell that extra energy when the grid needs it. And so both Tesla and Enphase, the two companies that I think are going to be the winners out of this trend, both Tesla and Enphase are operating in the virtual power plant or the virtual power business, right? Unite as a Tesla community. Team up with our Powerwalls owners who are accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and help form the largest distributed battery in the world. Over 50,000 Powerwalls. Like I think this is the future of industry. Virtual power plants. Every energy is produced locally, consumed locally, transferred locally. One of the problems is like centralized energy production is not efficient. You lose so much when you transmit energy 100 miles away. You lose so much energy. You have so much energy dissipation. Virtual power plants fix that. So that could be a really big trend in the future. Enphase is doing the same thing. They're launching their own virtual power plant network. And so this is leading the way of a revolution out here. And who's going to be the leaders in this? Well, I don't think it's going to be the utilities. It doesn't seem to be the utility players because they are, from what I see, they are not even acknowledging the potential for disruption of extra solar panels on homes. And they're still building very expensive multi-billion-dollar projects for centralized energy production while we have this S-curve type of revolution. We have this S-curve happening, unfolding in front of our eyes. And it's like, it's not going to be 5% cheaper next year, right? It's going to be more like 50 to 60% cheaper next year. This is the madness that's happening here. Anyways, what else can you do with the extra energy? Well, first of all, you oversize your system so that you make sure that in the most extreme months, you're covered, right? So your summer AC or your winter heat, if you have electric heat, you make sure that you're covered with your system, with your solar system, and you're most likely going to need an oversized solar system, especially for the winter. But that's okay because we saw the standard home only needs 10% of the roof to power itself. So if you have a 5x powered system, which again right now is expensive, but prices are dropping so fast, it's not going to be that expensive forever. Then you wonder yourself, you power your home just right with a battery during the most extreme months. And then the rest of the year, what happens the rest of the year? You get extra energy the rest of the year. And what can you do with all this abundant, extra, virtually free energy? Well, I think one of the main applications is going to be you participate in these virtual power plants and you sell it to the grid. You sell it to your neighbors. I think this is going to be one of the most uh, um, one of the main ways that people do it. Like they have extra energy, they just resell it to the grid, and it goes to an industrial player. It goes to neighbors who have not adopted solar yet. It goes somewhere within the grid. So that's one of them. Then charge your electric cars or Teslas, right? People still have more than one car. It's not unlikely to think that you would have 2 or 3 electric cars and you charge them all at home with this extra energy. Also, I want to point out that other type of rather large appliances are going electric. Like riding a lawnmower, for example. That's going to be a thing that's going to be electric. It's already there, right? They're already promoting that. So you charge your appliances with that extra energy that you get most of the year. Most of the year, you have extra free energy. What else can you do? Well, I do believe that abundant free energy will create new industries and new disruptions. And so, if you think outside the box, there's other things that could be disrupted. This is one of them that's little discussed, but that I think is going to be a big deal. Is air to water generation. So air to water generators. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it's using condensation to create best quality, fresh and safe drinking water extracted from air. And so the only downside of doing that is that it uses a lot of energy. But if you have free, abundant energy from an oversized solar roof, it really makes sense that you would buy one of those. They cost a few $1,000 and they make $50,000 of fresh water a day. So maybe you buy one of those for your home and you cut an over bill, right? You cut your water bill. Your water bill now is gone because you're making your energy at home and you don't rely on the local water. And so you're done with, say, things like, boiling orders whenever there's issues with the water system. So I think that could be a big deal, especially, and this is something that I haven't emphasized as much in this video, especially globally. This is an even bigger deal globally when you can just create water from condensation. This is not just a revolution within the US. The solar energy revolution is a worldwide revolution. So this is, I think, going to be one of the big deals. But there's other things that you can do. You can run a few nodes or a few Bitcoin mining equipment, right? You don't have to turn them on all year. It's just like whenever you have excess energy, that excess energy has to go somewhere. Why not just run one of these machines? They're about $2,000 and they're profitable. They generate a few sats for you. You can do that. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. So just have 1 or 2 spare Bitcoin miners and that extra energy in the spring and in the fall months when you get extra power, you can just power that. Or another thing you can do is you can earn money or you can donate computing power to decentralized computing projects. And so if you look at this website, right, distributedcomputing.info/projects, you can participate in any projects that you like and just have a computer run and dedicate computing power to those projects. And some of them pay you money and some of them is more like a donation. You're helping advance, I don't know, math. Like a big use of distributed computing, for example, is factoring prime numbers because prime numbers are very valuable. So you can spend that energy to generating compute power that helps either advance, nonprofits or either helps you make a little bit of money. What's another thing you could do with extra energy, free energy? And this is, I think, another thing that's growing really fast is that you could grow your own food by buying one of these new food growing appliances. And this is another field that's growing fast. Is you literally have an entire field of automated growing systems where you can grow. I mean, this one is you can grow 72 different types of salads and lettuce or whatever, but they have all sorts of them. Like, why not? Are 10 years, 20 years from now, if we have abundant energy in our homes, are we going to have an appliance that grows food for you automatically? I think that could be possible. And the one thing that I'll add to that is that all of that spare, extra, abundant energy, all of these applications, we can't predict them. Like, we don't know. We don't know yet what it's going to be. It's just like social media. What's social media going to do? Nobody could have thought that today you have jobs like influencers or YouTuber. Nobody could have thought that would be a thing. That is, I mean, the same thing I think is going to happen for disruption and solar energy abundance. We're going to have all this spare energy, and new businesses will be built based on the fact that there is a no to low marginal cost of energy generation. And so, how do I play this? Well, not investment advice, but I think there's two main stocks to bet on this. So first of all, I'm saying out of solar panels. A lot of people got burned investing in solar panels in the 2010s because they're a commodity. Solar panels are a commodity, right? They pretty much look the same. It's very tough to differentiate. So I would stay away from solar panels. My main plays in this are Tesla. So first of all, Tesla is obviously right now still mostly the cars, but they have a business that they will grow, which is the battery business and the solar setup and the solar system. And they have a very, very strong brands. So I think you will always have people who will go with Tesla. And of course, Tesla right now is not focusing on scaling this right now. They are scaling cars, but they will scale this, eventually in due time. Very strong brand. So you can do that. And then the other one is Enphase, and I think Enphase is one of the better bets to focus on in this revolution, really. And their bread and butter on Enphase is the microinverters. Microinverters are so much more efficient for so many reasons. They increase the amount of power generation that your solar panels can get. They work better with shadows and different types of setups. So I think Enphase, because it's hyper focused right now on the whole home energy system, I think they can greatly benefit from this right now. So my two bets on this are Tesla and Enphase, and I'm very excited about the future in this field. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching. This is just entertainment. None of this was investment advice. Don't forget to subscribe if you can and like my video. I really appreciate it. If you can follow me on Twitter, I am at beat the denominator, BT denominator on Twitter, and I do some threads once in a while. So I would love to have some of you follow me if you can. And thank you so much for watching my video. Have a great day.